Feeling a bit out of sorts? Picked up that mobile phone to dial, but don't quite remember whom? Or just feeling the heat of it all? If you've guessed where it is I'm going with this, you're absolutely right. And for those of you wondering where it is I'm heading with this, stay tuned because we are speaking all things menopause from the other side. At 53, mother of two, a self-confessed fitness and health enthusiast, I should have known better. I was eating right, working out, generally living well. Yet, I was waking up to a body that I couldn't recognize. A body that seemed to have a mind of its own, and I couldn't wrap my mind around what was going on. So I did what any reasonable person in my position would do. I turned to the internet. Social digital platforms, ChatGPT, and then only two scenarios are possible. An overload of information or misinformation when 30-60-second reels are pulled out of context. From the other side, it has been my endeavor to present stories of real women with extraordinary outcomes. Menopause is an inevitable phase in the lives of real women who are seeking those extraordinary outcomes. And it's possible. I therefore felt compelled to discuss and hopefully present a perspective that's refreshing on menopause. I also believe menopause needs to be viewed from a holistic prism. Hence, for the purpose of this conversation, I'm taking the liberty of breaking it down into three broad verticals: nutrition, exercise, and mental well-being. From the other side, I'm joined by three incredible women who are championing the well-being of women during their menopausal phase. It is my pleasure to welcome all three of you. Thank you for coming. My first guest is Linda Sakr. Her soft and stoic demeanor, and she is a holistic psychologist and founder of Kiani Wellness Center. Linda works with adults, adolescents, couples, utilizing an eclectic approach for anxiety, depression, parenting, relationships, and menopausal issues, to name a few. Linda's aim is to inspire you to become the best version of yourself. My second guest is Muskan Taurani, who's a passionate, integrative and functional medicine holistic health coach, menopause coach certified by International Women's Health Institute, nutrition advisor, and metabolic health coach. She's also the founder of That Wonderful Feeling, an empowering platform designed to help individuals address chronic health issues, manage weight, and improve health and lifestyle. Her mission is for her clients to wake up to feeling truly wonderful. The last but not least is the very energetic, vivacious, and quirky Dawn Raquel. She is a strength coach who integrated her own challenges and experience of menopause to now helping women understand and take charge of their bodies. She's the founder of Moxie Menopause, a platform that empowers women to live their optimal life with their new hormone reality. Dawn believes menopause is our power era. Yes. Welcome. I am not attempting to patronize at all what we are going through during our menopausal phase, and it is a serious issue. But I also think we must have the ability to laugh at our own selves. So while we just for a moment put it on the back burner in terms of deep diving about the serious issues of menopause, if I can really start off first with you, Dawn, about any anecdote or experience that you found simply hilarious and perhaps silly about menopause that you could share with us.
Well, menopause is a difficult transition, for sure. Through my experience from studying for myself, I like to put characters to the hormones because it can get really heady, can't it? You know that there's the progesterone, there's estradiol, there's estrone, they react like this, they do this, it's very clinical. But when I put characteristics to the hormones based on what it is that they do for us.
It's easy to relate.
It is really easy to relate to. So one of the things that I like to do is that estradiol She was our best friend. So this is the estrogen that we are losing when we're going through the menopausal transition. So our ovaries aren't producing it as much anymore. And then finally the ovaries shut down and we're not going to be producing estradiol any longer. But estradiol used to do so much for us. Like, she really is our best friend. And she has a lot to do with brain function. She's a precursor to serotonin levels. She helps with gut health. She helps with mitochondria cleanup of the cells. She does all of these things. She does so much work in the background.
Has she now left us high
And
and
then
dry?
she left us. So we used to sit with her at the cafeteria table, and she was our best friend. We had so many good times with her. And then she graduated. She left us. And now we're left at the table with estrone, which is the type of estrogen that we're left with post-menopause. And she doesn't do anything. She really doesn't. She's really like a frenemy. So she's the type of friend who you want to keep an eye on. You want to keep her close because you know that behind the scenes she's doing stuff. So you need to keep an eye on her all the time because you never know what she's up to behind the scenes. So she's one of these friends, like she's a frenemy. You want to keep her close because she's a little bit nasty. You just keep your eye on her. Yeah. Yes.
Muskan, anything that you've heard, and I'm sure you've heard some quirky things coming in from a nutrition perspective.
I mean, what amazes me is when I'm overhearing conversations and they've kind of demonized this whole, I'm in perimenopause, I'm in menopause. And I find it so funny because whether they're my friends or whether I'm in the gym or at a cafe and I see people having a moment, they're like, don't talk to me. I'm in perimenopause. And I'm just like thinking, the next 10 years, you're going to be saying this and absolutely killing every single relationship you're in or with, because it doesn't have to be such an evil thing. So that's one thing. And knowing what I know now, knowing the tools that I have now, I'm actually quite excited about this whole time because it's really just a pause. Like, our grandmothers are around because they went through this pause. Our mothers are around because they had the pause and they had the tools that they learned to navigate. Unfortunately, they didn't have the voice to give it to that particular transition in their life, and therefore we didn't have the voice, and therefore we've all become such strong advocates that enough. We don't want our girls going through this and their girls going through this. But the fact that I've been blessed with my grandmothers being around in their 90s, to hear from them and their story. So to me, it's a pause. It's a pause that we can manage if we have the right skill set and the right hand-holding amongst ourselves.
I love that. I often say that menopause is me on pause.
Yeah.
It makes me take a step back and really take stock of what are the priorities, because there's a lot of good things to do, but what are the great things? And I really feel like that's what menopause has done. It's made me really pull back and be like, what serves me? This goes for my exercise. This goes for my nutrition. This even goes for the types of relationships I'm allowing into my life, the type of things that I'm allowing my mind to dwell on. It's me on pause. What is serving me and going to take me into not just a survival era, but a power era? Yeah.
Linda, anything that you could share with us? Something quirky, interesting? I'm sure you hear a lot of things.
I hear a lot of things. I mean, in Arabic, the word menopause means it's like the age of despair and hopelessness. And I really, maybe that was the case back then, but we really need to change the narrative. And that's why we're here, to create that level of awareness and, change the narrative in terms of how people look at menopause, because essentially it's just going inwards. It's really all these years we've been looking after our children, our parents, now it's about to take that step back and what do I need? What are my needs? What is this all about? And so it's really about making sense and looking at this new chapter and honoring it. It's a rite of passage. It's not a disease, or it's not some sort of nothing to be ashamed of.
Nothing to speak in hushed tones about.
Nothing to speak in hushed tones about.
One of the things that I feel strongly about, and I just think when you look at a woman's life cycle, there are three big phases that you experience. The first, of course, being when your menstrual cycle starts. The second being childbirth. And the third is menopause. I believe that what happens with the first two is there is almost an ecosystem that's available for supporting and encouraging, right? Menstrual cycle conversations today are more frequent. Schools are talking about it. So young girls know what they're heading into. Childbirth, of course, is always such a happy time for families. Menopause, unfortunately, is one of those phases where we are also perhaps in the last phase of our lives, and which is where a lot of hand-holding would be incredible to have. Your children have gone off and you're an empty nester, and just to turn around and not find enough people to tell you it's okay to feel what you're feeling. It's not a disease. It's not something that you need to be ashamed of. It's not something that you have to grapple with just yourself, but just to come out and reach out for help is perfectly fine. I want to know, Linda, what is going on in our minds at the time that we're experiencing menopause? And when we say menopause, I know in your reels very candidly have described that it is that one day that you've completed your 1 year of not having a menstrual cycle. But for the purpose of the conversation, if I can still refer to it as a period that we're going through, what is it that's happening in our minds?
A lot. There's a lot going on. You know, with the fluctuating hormones, our mental health takes a toll. So what I've been seeing is that, let's say if a woman is anxious about giving a presentation during this period, during menopause, she would be having a panic attack.
Yes.
You know, if a woman's annoyed about certain things, suddenly it's full-on rage. You know, she's flying off the handle, getting really annoyed at people around her, her children, her boss, her colleagues. You know, everything is heightened. All these sort of, whether it's anxiety, depression, low mood swings, agitation, irritation, there's so much in terms of confidence, self-esteem, there's so much going on in terms of just brain fog, concentration, fatigue. There's, you know, when you add it all up together, and lack of sleep also plays a role into mental health and well-being.
So what would you say would one need? What would the woman need at this time to support her from a mental wellness perspective?
See, a lot of women come to me not knowing what they're experiencing.
Right.
They just say to me, I don't feel like myself anymore. I don't
yes.
recognize myself anymore. So identifying what it is. A lot of women just get treated for depression or anxiety, have some medication and you'll be fine. But it goes beyond that. A woman needs to understand what's going on in her body, in her mind. Conversations. And that once you put a label to it, and that aha moment, it makes sense. Now I understand. Now
and you
I
feel
know
that you're not the only one going through this. So it's not something that you feel alienated with.
Exactly. Right. Because a lot of times women think they're the only ones, and there's a lot of shame associated with it. What's wrong with me? Why can't I remember this person's name? Or why did I forget to do this? Or, you know, but it's all kind of normalizing and understanding, and, you know, knowledge is power, ultimately.
Absolutely. And I also feel, Linda, that women are not necessarily disadvantaged by biology, but sometimes by culture.
Yes.
Because there are certain norms that we've got to live up to, and our bodies are changing despite us doing the right things in terms of eating well, working out, but there is a change in the body. So we've got to be accepting of that.
May I just add, I think 100% all of that. But irrespective of whether you're fully menopausal, in perimenopause or premenopause, I think the essential point here is sleep is so crucial, right? So you could be a 30-something woman having a perfectly controlled life because you're controlling that life and ticking all the right boxes. But if you've had a late meal and you've had drinks on top of it and you've had dessert, for sure you're not sleeping because your liver starts to detoxify first the sugar. So potentially your liver should be relaxing after 8-9 p.m., but now it's revving up again. And you're kind of working that engine when you're supposed to be detoxing when you're sleeping. So if that's not happening, then you're going to wake up the next day, or you're not going to sleep. You've not hit those REM cycles. You're going to wake up feeling lethargic, angry, bloated, full, just irritated. So going back to what you said, that yes, it's not just food and lifestyle, but sleep is so crucial to everybody and anybody. It's our primitive right as human beings or animals or living organisms to just reset all the muck that's happening in our body at that time.
Absolutely. And I'm guilty as charged when it comes to this particular aspect. Because I also think as women, we tend to take on so much more. And it is at the cost often of our well-being, of sleep. So, late night conversations with your children, or just trying to make sure that for the next day everyone's well prepared, you compromise on your sleep. So point noted completely with you. Muskan, I want to therefore ask you, and we often say this, we are what we eat. But because we are not too sure what in the world is happening inside of us, what is it that we must eat to feel ourselves?
Oh gosh, I think we have to go back to the caveman time for that, because everything is so depleted. The soil is depleted. The fruits and vegetables are sometimes GMO. It's not, and I'll be honest, I don't lead 100% organic life. Call it laziness, call it expensive, call it accessibility. I do follow the list of the dirty dozen as much as I can, but that also generally doesn't always happen. But as I get older, and I think, again, going back to what you just said earlier, late night phone calls, I have become very selfish with my personal needs, and my children are learning to respect that. Because if I don't create that boundary, I will never teach them to create that boundary, right? So my kids are at boarding school in the UK, and now with the 4-hour time difference, much as my heart breaks that I say goodnight to them at my 9 p.m., which is 5 p.m. for them, I have a special ringer for them, and God forbid if something is the case, I will hear that. I'm very selfish about that, and on the rare occasion that I have stayed up late, if I'm out for a dinner, and I call my kids, they're like, "You're still awake? Why are you awake? Go back to bed." I'm like, "No, I'm just about to go to bed." But so that's one thing. But going back to food, I think it is so important to eat the plants instead of what's made in the plant, made in a factory, coming out of a box. So eat the plants instead of what's made in the plant, which is the factory. So at every meal, if you're having 3 meals a day, ensure that you have a rainbow of vegetables, the calculation of having the vegetable intake during the course of the week, if you have 3 meals a day and 7 days in a week, is 21 meals. So that's minimum 21 different kinds of fruits, vegetables, herbs, spices, all fall under the plant family. You can have your meat and your steak and your fish and whatever else you want, but have in the whole week a rainbow of vegetables and herbs, because you're having the sun, the earth, the moon, and the energy of all of that that's going into the body.
And would you say this is even more important during the menopausal phase to be mindful of?
I think yes, definitely, because again, the natural minerals and vitamins and chemicals and all the good stuff that's coming out of plants, we really need that more than ever at this transition in our life, because again, like going back to what Dawn said, our best friends left us. Right? And we've got this frenemy who's more than happy to see us, fall down the bandwagon. So let's just kind of punch her in the face. And
I love that. Yeah. Punching in the face, I want to know, how do we get strong enough to do that? And why is physical exercise, activity so imperative now than ever before?
Muscle is so important as we get older. We are in just a passive state. If we're not doing anything, we are losing muscle every year, 1 to 3% of our muscle mass per year. But that doesn't mean that we have to. We can actually be proactive. And this is one thing that I love about Esther. She gets a bad rap. We think that she's our frenemy. But I also feel that she's also put me into an empowerment era where I have to be proactively consistent and take charge of my own system. And one of those things is with the strength training. Understanding what the hormones used to do for us and what state I'm left in. Why is it that I need to do these things? Estradiol, which was that fertility estrogen, she used to actually help my muscles contract. Right. So without me even thinking about it, my muscles would contract. She was doing it. She was helping along with that, which means that muscle building was just so easy. But now we've lost estradiol. So we now need an external source in order to stimulate that muscle contraction hard enough in order to promote the muscle building. So the myosin in the muscle, that's the thing, that construct that makes the muscle contract. Estradiol used to help the myosin do that. She's no longer there, so now we need that external source, and that is where strength training comes in. And this is when things start to change, and this is why women in menopause will say, and when we say menopause, we mean the whole transitional period. So premenopause, perimenopause, postmenopause, you'll hear women say, I don't know what's going on. I'm exercising and eating exactly the same that I used to, and it's not working anymore, and I don't know why. And this is exactly what happened with me. I was going into the gym 5-6 days a week. I was hitting the weights. I was doing weights, and I'm pretty strong. And my body was changing. I was actually losing muscle. Can you believe that? I was going in and hitting the weights and losing muscle, and I was gaining fat. I was like, what is happening? Well, what is happening is that I'm losing estradiol, and my muscles no longer contract at the same way, and doing this hypertrophy, which is like 10 to 12 reps or 15 to 20 reps. These are no longer effective the way that it used to be when I had estradiol. So now I need to get into the strength training. So I need to start lifting heavier for less reps. So 3, 5, 8 reps. Because if you think about it, for 5 reps, you can push more weight than you can for 12, 20 reps. So that's what you do, is you start getting yourself stronger. And of course, you need to do this under the guidance of a strength coach. Yeah. This is what I advise women. Invest in yourself for at least 3 months with a strength coach. Not just any PT, but you want to be looking for a strength coach. Somebody who's going to take you through the complex movements, the squats, the bench press, the hip thrust, the overhead press. If you're going to do any of like the complex Olympic lifts, those are great as well. But we want to get into where you're lifting heavy for 3 reps, because what that's going to do is create this metabolic reaction in the body that helps you to lose fat and gain muscle.
So just while we're on it, so if you say carry perhaps the heaviest that you can, would you then have perhaps 2 reps in reserve? Would you do that?
Yeah, you want to do it so that you're really struggling on the last 2 reps. Yeah. So for myself, I have done an integrated sort of like a hybrid programming for myself. So at the beginning of my workout, I have my complex movement within my strength rep range, so 3 to 5 reps. So that during this block that I've programmed for myself, I have my squats. I'm doing 5 sets of 5. So then progressively over the month, I'm going to be increasing every week how much I'm going to be doing for those 5 sets of 5 reps of squats. But I want it that on that last rep. So I'm doing 5. I'm really struggling, and I'm making noise.
And that's a good point to get.
And that's this is what we want to do, because then you're actually pushing your muscles to a point where you're getting that external force that's creating that reaction in the muscle, that's getting it to contract, so you're getting that muscle building. There's nothing sexier than a woman in a gym lifting heavy weights.
Absolutely. And a menopausal woman lifting weights.
Yeah. I did see something recently where it said, I would rather be the oldest person in the gym than the youngest person in the old folks' home.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well put.
Yeah, nice one.
And I really feel like women also need to not be scared to make noise. The thing is that when you're lifting heavy, I can't help myself, but around rep 8, I always make a noise. I do. And we just have to not be afraid to work hard enough that some sort of noise is going to come out. It's okay.
We just need to get out of our own way for a change.
Yes.
Anything on the mental exercise regime that we could follow at this time that would help us?
You know, there's so much we can do in terms of, like I said, awareness is key. I liked what you said about being proactively consistent. Yes. And I think that applies to whether it's your nutrition, whether it's exercising, whether it's taking care of your mental health needs. I'm a big advocate for a holistic approach. So looking at things like mindfulness, being very mindful in the way that you eat and the way that you interact. Mindfulness is not emptying your mind. It's about being in the present, being in the moment, connecting again with yourself, with what you're doing. In this fast-paced life that we live, we're constantly frazzled. We don't know what we're doing. And then, so this will really help, especially with brain fog and, really kind of taking everything we do, giving it the time that it deserves, being very sort of, focused and connected to what we do. Meditating is really high, the benefits is, incredible. Just start with 5 minutes. That's all you need. People think of meditation like monks sitting for hours on end. That's not what's needed. 5 minutes in a hectic day can do a lot for you.
And one of the reasons for us to have this conversation across the various talking points between nutrition, exercise, and mental wellness is because I do believe that menopause needs to be seen from a holistic prism. It's not one thing that's going to be the magic pill or the magic wand that's going to make us feel wonderful when we wake up in the morning. It's a sum total of the various efforts that we need to take. Again, Dawn, to further this, that 1.1 billion women by 2025 are going to be in menopause. So it is something that we need to brace ourselves with. Being proactive and taking measures that make us feel more empowered is just imperative. Any stereotypes that come to mind when we talk about menopause? Because each of you in your practices, I'm sure, whether it's a nuance with ageism, sexism, and I know often we're not very kind to ourselves. And I take your point, Muskan, that self-care, self-preservation has got to be perhaps more important now than ever before. Set those boundaries, do it with your children, because what we demonstrate is better understood than what we tell them or speak about. Anything that you would talk about, what you do in your own personal lives in terms of self-care, self-preservation? Because I know we all are in the same menopausal phase. So I'm taking the liberty of saying we are all in that phase, yeah?
Can I just add, before Linda says, I just want to add with self-care, I hope you feel the same way, but I think you do. It's not just, I'm going to go soak in the bathtub, that's self-care, or I'm going to meditate, or I'll just sit alone. Yes, that's self-care, but the actual essence of self-care is the thought that you're going to invest that time, not the act, but the thought of cultivating and chalking out that time on a daily basis or a weekly basis, not the end result. The end result is the byproduct of how you feel, but mentally telling yourself, and it doesn't matter what you do, it could be going for a movie alone, is I am going to be selfish and I'm going to invest in self-care, whatever that is. It could be a walk, it could be going to the beach, it could be going to the gym, it could be, having a cup of tea alone. To me, that is the essence of self-care.
Is it because, Muskan, when you say alone, is it because you can hear yourself? Otherwise, we don't hear ourselves enough. We get there's so much surround sound.
So every year at the beginning of New Year's, I give myself a word, which is either for myself or for my family. And I try to incorporate it to my family, but it's more reflects on me. So and I've started this like 7-8 years ago. And every year it's a new word, and whatever comes to me, it could be energy, it could be empowerment. This year's word, funnily, was go beyond. That came to me. Like I
That's 2 words.
Yeah, I know. Beyond. So this year's word that came to me on the 1st or the 2nd of New Year's was go beyond. And I don't know why that word came to me, but something that I've started doing very early on in the year is going for a silent walk. Without a phone, without a watch. And it could be 10 minutes, and sometimes it's turned into an hour, where I'm literally just picking on the sounds around me, the birds chirping, the dump truck passing by, kids fighting, dogs barking. Earlier on, I would be plugged in my headset, right? And I now acknowledge the garbage truck coming in the morning at 6:30. He waves at me. He's like, hello, ma'am, because I'm acknowledging him. I am seeing him.
Yeah.
And to me, that is my self-care. Like, I am seeing a person I didn't see.
Right. You're connecting to your now.
I'm connecting to myself, to my now, to my present. Yeah. Last night I went for a 5-minute walk just around my street, and I know there were no cars at that time. I closed my eyes and I walked because I wanted to feel my muscles. It was a very slow walk because for safety reasons, and I had to really be mindful of the street I'm on, and I was making sure I was on the edge of the pavement, again for safety reasons. But every 30-40 seconds I was opening my eyes just to check my surroundings, but it was intentional. It was a walk to feel my muscles because I've been given this gift of movement like we all have. What am I being mindful with it?
I'm just thinking it must be such a visceral feeling to be able to feel in that moment.
But you know what's more empowering after that moment is you go back to your family. I'm a different person. In those 5 minutes after,
Better person.
I am just full of energy.
Yeah.
I am just like, let's get on with it. And you know, what's the plan?
It's like a battery that's charged.
Oh my God, absolutely.
Right?
So, you know, self-care or food or strength training, where you are selfishly as menopausal women telling yourself, I'm important.
Yep.
I am the mothership. And I tell this to a lot of my menopause clients, women who are like, oh, you know, they end up losing 5, 6, 7 kilos in weight on the scale, because it's not just the food that we work on, but they end up taking back their own self, like the strength training or building that boundaries that we have so freely given away our whole life, because that's the narrative our parents have given us.
Well, it's also one of one of the characteristics of estradiol.
Yeah.
Is she's very nurturing, and she makes us want to do everything for everybody. And then as we lose estradiol, we're left with estrone, who's like, you're on your own. I'm not helping you with any of this stuff. So if you want to start having these mindfulness things and
Work it yourself.
You need to do that yourself. You need to be proactively consistent on all these different levels.
What do you do, Dawn?
For what?
Self-care, self-preservation.
Honestly, it's my strength training. I loved how you said that you closed your eyes to feel your muscles.
Yeah.
I have heard that a lot of women are getting late diagnosed with ADHD.
Yeah.
My children have described to me, because one of them has been diagnosed with ADHD, and the symptoms that they have, I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's what I do that. That's how I am. And I have found that I didn't necessarily go into strength training in order to help with focus issues, but I do find that that's one of the byproducts of it. And it is a mindfulness exercise for me, because in order for me to brace my core, to get everything braced properly, so when I'm doing a squat, a lot of people think that that's just a lower body exercise. It's a complex exercise. It's called a complex movement because it uses the whole body, because we actually have to brace our back in order to carry that weight, to have the load bearing of the barbell on the back. You can't just be like this. You have to brace yourself back, and you have to hold that, you know? Then you have to keep your chest up, have your core braced. Then you go down into the squat. So yes, it's a lower body exercise, but it's actually everything. But if my mind is somewhere else and I'm not thinking about my body, I can really damage myself. So really what it does is it grinds me into this moment, into my now, and I connect to myself, and I can feel these muscles, and I feel this empowerment, and I leave, like there's so many times people say to me, oh, Dawn, how do you stay motivated to go into the gym all the time? I'm not motivated to go into the gym all the time. I'm really not. Nobody really goes in thinking, I really want to work out. No, but what got me consistent was thinking, I know that at the end of this workout, I'm going to feel so good, because there's so many things that happen psychologically, it happens in the brain chemistry, it happens with inside my body, in my muscles. They say that when you do strength training, it actually excretes a protein into our bloodstream that scientists have called the hope molecule. So it actually gives you hope, which is incredible. So it's all of these things, and I started thinking about how I'm going to feel at the end of the workout, and that's what motivates me. So many times I've gone into the gym and I don't even have the emotional energy to take out the garbage. Like even just taking out the garbage, it feels like too big of a task, let alone everything else that I have to get done. I go into the gym, I do my workout, and I leave, and I'm like, you know what? I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. Nothing in my life has actually changed. The garbage is still sitting there. I still have to get that done, and I have to do all these other things. But now I have the energy. Now I have that empowerment and that hope, because I've done these moments where I've taken this time selfishly to build into myself, and then that progressively moves forward into the productivity of my life.
So lovely. This is so wonderful, because the next time I'm doing squats, I am concentrating on those muscles.
Yeah.
Anything that you do, Linda, that you'd like to share with us?
You know, something interesting that I picked up, Muskan kept using the word selfish. Let's take selfish out of this equation, because a lot of women associate the word selfish with guilt. Negative. And it's not selfish, it's a
Self-care.
birthright.
It's a birthright. Yeah.
Self-care is not self it's not selfish, it's not self-indulgent, it's self-preservation. Right?
Actually, that's true. Well said.
So
I like
let's
that.
get that word out. Reframe that,
Yeah, I
because
like
that makes people feel a bit like, oh my God, I feel so bad. I should be with my daughter, but I'm actually out having a walk, you know. So self-care is something, and like you said, we carve it out. We don't need to, it doesn't have to be somewhere like a holiday or a spa. It's something
every day.
Every day
Then you
we can do it at home. 5 minutes.
Those little things.
It's the small things that make a big difference. One of my biggest things is prioritizing sleep. I mean, that has been a game changer for me. You know, I have a very sociable husband. Every night, without fail, we're invited out for dinner. I have been declining those dinners, sorry, because I cannot function. Like Muskan said, you eat late, you can't sleep, you can't, you know, and I want to wake up early and I want to, you know, so you have to have those healthy boundaries. I mean, there's no way around it, you know, otherwise you can't have it all and you can't be everywhere and all the time. You have to pick and choose. You have to do what works for you.
And you're going to lose perhaps some friends on the way, but you're going to find yourself at the end of the road, and that's wonderful to do.
You know, it's so important for me. I wake up at 6, and it's very important for me to take my daughter to school every day, because that's where we have our quality time in the car. Yeah. And people say to me, but you've got 2 drivers. Why do you bother? And I said, because this is really a priority. Absolutely. Like this quality time is... So it's big. Pick and choose. I think it's important. Yeah, make it work for you.
I think we need to just sort of break the cycle, because with my clients as well, I'll say, just go to bed because you're tired. Just go to, but I can't be. An adult doesn't go to bed before 11 p.m. We need to break that. I don't know where this came in, that there's like an adult time to go to sleep. We should go to sleep when our body is tired. And we're tired at night because that's normal. And you should go to sleep. That actually solves a lot of the energy issues, the fatigue issues, the brain fog issues, the detoxification issues at nighttime, because that's another thing that estradiol used to do. She used to help our livers detox. So not only are we eating things at nighttime that create this disruption to the detoxification process, and all of a sudden it disrupts our sleep because our body is working hard, but also our liver can't detox as effectively as it used to. So if we're drinking alcohol before bed, or we're eating sugar before bed, or doing these things that actually we're creating a monster, because we're sitting in front of the TV and we're wanting to stay up because that's what adults do. I need to stay up to 11, but
it's
you're
like some
dying.
privilege that you've earned as an adult.
Right, exactly. But then I'm going to eat these things in order to try to stay awake. That's why we get snacky at night, actually. Yeah. We're so good all day, we eat so well, and then at nighttime you get a little peckish. You want a sugary snack. That's actually your brain telling you.
We often term this as a me time, so I can do whatever I feel like because it's something I've earned.
I've earned it. I've had a really hard day. I deserve a little treat. And it's like, okay, sure. But also that's your brain telling you, listen, if you're going to keep staying up, I need some quick energy. So you need to give it to me. So that's why you start wanting the sugary snacks at nighttime. It's not a willpower issue. It's not some sort of disciplinary issue. It is actually scientifically, physiologically something that's happening in your body. Your brain is asking for energy. Because if you're going to stay up when you're actually tired, then you need this quick energy. So then we do that. Then we try to go to sleep. Then we get kicked out of REM sleep because our body is trying to detoxify the sugar. And all of a sudden we get this energy surge from the sugar. And also our liver isn't able to detoxify it properly. So we're not getting, and then we wake up and we're fatigued, and then we go through this whole cycle again. And it's just like, let's just be adults and go to sleep at a good time.
Can I just add to that? All of that is 100% true. But if we are to start our day, even if you've had a difficult night, with a balanced meal with quality protein, because your first meal needs to start with protein at this stage in our life, especially. And again, adequate, healthy carbohydrates, whether it's vegetables or fruit, but the protein is important. And if you've set the benchmark for that first meal, then you've kind of stabilized your sugar and spikes and crashes for the whole day. It doesn't happen overnight, but even one day, a 24-hour cycle of eating well, you will instantly see the difference the next day that, oh, I actually am less bloated. I have actually had a great night's sleep because you have added that first meal So when people are like, oh, I don't get hungry, or I don't like eating breakfast, or I like skip breakfast, fine, but at some point have that first meal where you're making sure it's not just like incessant cups of coffee. You're actually putting nutritious meals into your body, because food is fire. And we need the fire to fuel our body at this time, right? And if there's our best friends left us and our frenemies around the corner, and she's bringing the neighbor, and she's bringing the cat and the dogs and everyone else on this train ride, you need fuel, right? And the fuel is coming from food, right?
Spoken like a true nutritionist, I'd say. I completely second everything that we've spoken about, and I think it's also imperative that we bring this again to the table, that this is that time of our lives when we need to see inward out more than ever before, which means that we set the right healthy boundaries for ourselves. Self-preservation is absolutely important. And I've often been told, I spend most of my time in the gym. And I say this, is I'm not going in there just for my body. I'm actually going there for my mind. Yes. So every time, and yes, there are days that I'm not all enthusiastic to go into the gym, but I know my purpose. And it's not willpower, it's not motivation, because they're not consistent enough to last you long. Right. But purpose is. So once you know your purpose, it just becomes that much easier. I have to say, Muskan, with food, I've dodged pretty much most part of my life because of my own gut issues. But the one thing that I've figured now in menopausal phase is that what worked then will not work anymore. So if I was doing intermittent fasting for the longest time, today I realize the importance of fueling my body before my workout, and fueling it with right proteins and the complex carbohydrates. So that's absolutely, again, vital. We are pretty much at the end of our conversation. I could go on, and I'm sure we all have more stories to share. But what I do at the end of my podcast is there are two questions that I ask all my guests, and I would like to know this as well from yourselves. Any 3 non-negotiables that you do on a day-to-day basis, on a daily basis, that you could share with us? It could be 3, it could be 10, but just for the purpose of easy relatability, if there are 3 that you could tell us.
You want to go first?
I'm thinking.
You're in the gym every day. We know the first. Yeah, the gym is your non-negotiable.
My 3 negotiables are I have to start my day at 5:30 a.m. Because from 5:30 to 6:30 is my time. I go for my 10-minute silent walk. I then come back and have a coffee, and then I sit down to have breakfast with my daughter. So that's number 1 for me. Like 6:30, we have breakfast together. Number 2 is to make sure I've had vegetables at every meal. Consciously, I'll make sure that whatever there is to eat, that there's always a plate of roasted vegetables on the side at every meal, and everyone has to dig into that. And the third one is, if I am home and if the family is home, phones and gadgets are off at 9 p.m., which is, I'm very proud to say, it's most nights. Where we'll read, or we'll chat, or we'll play a board game, or we'll play a game of Uno or whatever. But yeah, those are my 3 non-negotiables.
Awesome.
Always.
Good going. Dawn?
I would say definitely the gym is non-negotiable for me. Not necessarily every day, like the strength training I do about 5 days a week, but I need to have some sort of movement every day, and I love feeling my muscles. Protein is definitely a non-negotiable. It's something that I'm just conscious of every single meal, to have the quality of protein. And then, I don't know, something fun. I need to do something fun every day, something to brighten my mind. So it could be dancing. It could be, making somebody laugh. It's something that brings me joy.
And it's bringing us joy with your quirky reels that we've been consuming. Linda, your 3 non-negotiables?
So my first one is sleep, for sure. Getting quality sleep. And I've invested in this incredible pillow, and it's been a life game changer. I go to bed at 10, I wake up at 6. I really feel it. The days that I haven't slept well, because I do wake up middle of the night. So with that interruption, I make it a point to sleep well as much as I possibly can. It makes a big difference. I love to journal. I'm a big You know, I love to journal. I love to write.
Is it every day?
It's every day, and it's about gratitude. You know, cultivating the attitude of gratitude. It's whenever things start getting very stressful, and I start thinking about all the things that I'm grateful for, it just reframes everything.
End of day?
End of day. I start reflecting on what the day was like, what happened, what I learned. Things like, it really does make a difference.
Sure.
Affirmations are big for me as well.
Okay.
And I love spending time with my girlfriends. I think they're, connecting, talking, sharing, I think that really helps just kind of put things in perspective. So that's my joy in terms of
All right,
day
that's
to
lovely.
day. But yeah.
The last question. If there was only one thing that you could tell every single person in the world, what would that one thing be? Linda, you want to go first?
I mean, in terms of menopause, I just wish every woman would be empowered and go through this with ease, grace, confidence, and honestly, everything passes. This too shall pass. Nothing
lovely.
lasts
That's
forever.
mine too. This too shall pass.
This too shall pass.
Awesome.
Yes.
So what is the one thing that
So
you
my
would
one
tell?
thing that I want to say to people is look forward to menopause. It is the best stage of life. Like, yes, there is this volatile transitional period, but once you get to the other side of it, there is peace, there is power, there is vitality of life, there is still purpose. It is our power era. So look forward to that. You're going to get through it, and we're going to get through it together.
So just hang in there. It's our power era.
Yes,
Awesome.
absolutely.
I would say if you're in your 40s or late 30s, start investing in lifestyle changes. The smallest change will go a long way as you come into full menopause, because we're building a bank, a reserve.
Nice.
And we can't just wake up one day and say, oh, now what? Right? It takes time. And if you have a bank of protein, and if you have a bank of good sleep, and you have a bank of good health and energy and strength and muscle, you're only making it that much more enjoyable and easier when you become full onset menopause. So it's never too late or never too early to start, but please start.
She never seemed shattered to me. She was a breathtaking mosaic of all the battles she's won. And this is with the belief that we will breathtakingly see ourselves through this power era. Thank you, ladies, for coming.
Thank you. That's fun. Thank you.